This is a study of 2 Samuel, chapters 16, 14, and 15. And the entire book of 2 Samuel, of course, traces the kingship of David. Verse 1. Now Joab, the son of Zeruiah, perceived that the king's heart was toward Absalom. Absalom, of course, would have been David's son, and the Joab was his chief general, and he was the son of David's sister. 2. And Joab sent to Tekoa, and fetched thence a wise woman, and said unto her, I pray thee, feign thyself to be a mourner, and put on new mourning apparel, and anoint thyself with oil, but be as a woman that had a long time mourned for the dead. So he has gone to some wise woman to Tekoa, and that is the home of Amos, and he has engaged himself an actress who is going to pretend to be mourning. 3. And come to the king, and speak on this manner unto him. So Joab put the words in her mouth. He told her exactly what to say when she got to David. 4, and when the woman of Tekoa spake to the king, she fell on her face to the ground, and did obeisance, and said, Help, O king. Interestingly, that word help translated is Hosanna, which means save now. 5. And the king said unto her, What aileth thee? And she answered, I am indeed a widow woman, and mine husband is dead. 6. And thy handmaiden had 2 sons, and they 2 strove together in the field, and there was none to part them, but the one smote the other, and slew him. Now these 2 brothers have fought, and Joab hopes that David will pass judgment, forgive one who slew, but for premeditated manslaughter, not for premeditated murder. 7. And behold, the whole family is risen against thy handmaid. And they said, Deliver him that smote his brother, that we may kill him for the life of his brother whom he slew, and we will destroy the heir also. So they shall quench my coal which is left, and shall not leave to my husband neither name nor remainder on the earth. She's saying, it will all be gone. I will not have any offspring. They will cut off my husband's seed, and there won't even be a way for me to build a fire. 8. And the king said unto the woman, Go to thine house, and I will give charge concerning thee. So he will make a judgment. 9. And the woman of Tekoa said unto the king, My lord, O king, the iniquity be on me and on my father's house, and the king and his throne be guiltless. And this would be a sin on her house, not anything to affect the king. 10. And the king said, Whosoever saith aught unto thee, bring him to me, and he shall not touch thee any more. So bring your offender to me. David is setting up. 11. Then said she, I pray thee, let the king remember the Lord thy God, that thou wouldest not suffer the revengers of blood to destroy any more, lest they destroy my son. And he said, As the Lord liveth, there shall not one hair of thy son fall to the earth. And he has taken an oath, the Lord liveth, and this will apply to Absalom as certainly as to this woman. 12. Then the woman said, Let thine handmaiden, I pray thee, speak one word unto my lord the king. And he said, Say on. In other words, you've made your case, so why say more? Close and stop. 13. And the woman said, Wherefore then hast thou thought such a thing against the people of God? For the king doth speak this thing as one which is faulty, in that the king doth not fetch home again his banished. The banished one would be Absalom. Now David is no fool. 14. For we must needs die, and are as water spilt on the ground, which can't be gathered up again. Neither doth God respect any person, yet doth he devise means that his banished be not expelled from him. Water on the ground, life is short. David is beginning to see through the act that is put on here, and that it is to persuade him in matters of his own children, not the two supposedly sons of this woman. 15, excuse me. Now therefore that I am come to speak of this thing unto my lord the king, it is because the people have made me afraid. And my handmaid said, I will now speak unto the king. It may be that the king will perform the request of his handmaid. Perhaps the king will come to a decision and solve her case, but it's already done. And she may be realizing that David is catching on to her act. 16. For the king will hear to deliver his handmaid out of the hand of the man that would destroy me and my son together out of the inheritance of God. The decision to spare her son would also apply to David's son Absalom. 17. Then thine handmaid said, The word of my lord the king shall now be comfortable, for as an angel of God, so is my lord the king to discern good and bad. Therefore the Lord thy God will be with thee. Now she is pouring it on. Comfortable there means giving rest. She is resorting now to flattery. Then the king answered and said unto the woman, Hide not from me, I pray thee, the thing that I shall ask thee. And the woman said, Let the Lord, the king, now speak. 19. And the king said, Is not the hand of Joab with thee in all this? Oh, he has smelled this out. Joab, his nephew, is behind this. And the woman answered and said, As thy soul liveth, my lord the king, none can turn to the right hand or to the left aught that my lord the king hath spoken. For thy servant Joab, he bade me, and put all these words in the mouth of thine handmaid. She has told the truth, realizing that it would be very dangerous to lie to the king. 20. To fetch about this form of speech, hath thy servant Joab done this thing? And my Lord is wise according to the wisdom of an angel of God to know all things that are in the earth. Once again, she is being flattering. She has told the truth. 21. And the king said unto Joab, Behold, now I have done this thing. Go therefore, bring the young man Absalom again. Remember, David had taken an oath. As the Lord liveth, he said. 22. And Joab fell to the ground on his face and bowed himself and thanked the king. And Joab said, Today thy servant knoweth that I have found grace in thy sight, my lord, O king, and that the king hath fulfilled the request of his servant. 23. So Joab arose and went to Geshur and brought Absalom to Jerusalem. Geshur would be in Syria, and it would have been Absalom's his grandfather on his mother's side, Geshur. 24. And the king said, Let him turn to his own house, and let him not see my face. So Absalom returned to his house and saw not the king's face. Now, David, if you recall, had a number of wives and concubines. He lived in a big palace, and each family had sections of that palace. And Absalom went into the part of that palace where his mother and his whole siblings would have lived. And David doesn't have to see him at all. 25. But in all Israel there was none to be so much praised as Absalom for his beauty. From the sole of his foot even to the crown of his head, there was no blemish to him. A very good-looking person. And his name, by the way, means the Father of Peace. Very friendly and good-looking. 26. And when he polled his head, for it was at every year's end that he polled it, because the hair was heavy on him, therefore he polled it, he weighed the hair of his head at 200 shekels after the king's weight. The king, of course, set the system of weight. Polling his head means to shave it, and that number listed there would be almost 4 pounds of hair. Quite a bit of hair, and we will see that the hair will contribute to his death. 27. And unto Absalom there were born 3 sons and 1 daughter, whose name was Tamar. She was as a woman of fair countenance. Tamar, and her name means palm tree. It's unusual here that the girl is named, but there are no sons' names. When we get to chapter 18, along about verse 18 of that verse, we find the no names for the sons, which means simply in genealogy of these persons, someone who was not present to produce an issue or an heir are not listed. So only this girl is listed. So Absalom dwelt 2 full years in Jerusalem and saw not the king's face. 29 Therefore Absalom sent for Joab to have him sent to the king, but he would not come to him. And when he sent the second time, he would not come. 31 Then Joab arose and came to Absalom unto his house, and said unto him, Wherefore have thy servants set my field on fire? Okay, Absalom has set a field on fire that belongs to Joab. 32 And Absalom answered Joab, Behold, I have sent unto thee, saying, Come hither, that I may send thee to the king, to say, Wherefore am I come from Geshur? It had been good for me to have been there still. Now therefore let me see the king's face, and if there be any iniquity in me, let him kill me. Just take me before David, and if he finds anything wrong with me, so be it. 33 So Joab came to the king and told him, and when he had called for Absalom, he came to the king and bowed himself on his face to the ground before the king, and the king kissed Absalom. Of course, that was his child. And now we come to chapter 15, verse 1. And it came to pass after this that Absalom prepared him chariots and horses, and 50 men to run before him. This is an arrogant so-and-so. They were running ahead, saying, make way for Absalom, the prince, too, or something like that. And Absalom rose up early and stood before the way of the gate. Now the gate is the place of judgment, remember. And it was so that when any man that had a controversy came to the king for judgment, then Absalom called unto him and said, Of what city art thou? And he said, Thy servant is one of the tribes of Israel. Here we got a con artist happening. Here he is sitting in the place of judgment and has no business there. And Absalom said unto him, See, thy matters are good and right, but there is no man disputed of the king to hear thee. There's no one here to hear what you need. So Absalom, verse 4, said, Moreover, oh, that I were made judge in the land, that every man which hath any suit or cause might come unto me, and I would do him justice. Oh, he's saying, I will make everyone happy. I would just be doing it right. Ego here. Too bad I'm not the king, because who hands out the judgment? The king, of course. 5. And it was so that when any man came nigh to him, To do him obeisance, he put forth his hand and took him and kissed him. Oh, he is really playing the part to steal hearts and become popular. 6. On this manner did Absalom to all Israel that came in to the king for judgment. So Absalom stole the hearts of the men of Israel. He ran out and kissed all of them. 7. And it came to pass after 40 years that Absalom said unto the king, I pray thee, let me go and pay thy vow which I have vowed unto the Lord in Hebron. Now, this 40 years probably is in reference from David was about 40 when he became king. He was 40 when Samuel anointed him in 1 Samuel chapter 16. And Hebron, of course, was where Absalom was born, as David was first the king of Judah, and there was no vow. So he is saying, I'll make the vow. Hebron would have been the capital city at that earlier kingship before David was the king over the entirety of Israel. 11. And with Absalom went 200 men out of Jerusalem that were called, and they went in their simplicity, and they knew not anything. They went, they were invited, they're perfectly innocent, they are unsure of the reason for their even being on this trip. 12. And Absalom sent for Ahithophel the Gileonite, David's counselor, from his city, even from Galo, where he offered sacrifices, and the conspiracy was strong, for the people increased continually with Absalom. You are going to see that Absalom is a type for the Antichrist. He comes in peacefully and prosperously, and he's trying to steal the throne. That counselor there, that Ahithophel, he was a high ranker, and whose side is he getting in? He is siding with Absalom. Psalms 41 through 55, and 55, I should say, David writes about this time in his life when Absalom turned on him and expresses his sorrow for this time in his life. 13. And there came a messenger to David, saying, The hearts of the men of Israel are after Absalom. He's popular. 14. And David said unto all his servants that were with him at Jerusalem, Arise, escape from Absalom, make speed to depart, lest he overtake us suddenly, and bring evil upon us, and smite the city with the edge of the sword. Dangerous. Even David is saying we're going to have to evacuate this city. This is not David's style to flee. Remember, as a boy of 14, that he ran toward Goliath, a person far bigger and armed and in armor. 15. And the king's servants said unto the king, Behold, thy servants are ready to do whatever my lord the king shall appoint. So David has a following, and these persons are going to be true and constant with him. And the king went forth, and all the people after him, and tarried in a place that was far off. Translated, that means house of distance, and it really isn't far off. It is close by, and it would have not been a long way away. House of distance. It would have been toward Jericho, about the last house out from in Jerusalem, so it wasn't a far away place. 18. And all his servants passed on beside him, all the Cherethites and Pelethites and all the Gittites from Gath passed before the king. And these Githites were, Cherethites, I should say, were persons who they executed judgment. They didn't kill people. And the Pelethites were couriers. These were bodyguards. And the Githites were of Gath, but they were not necessarily Philistines. There's 600 here. Okay, verse 19. Then said the king to Ittai the Gittite, wherefore goest thou also with us? Return to thy place and abide with the king, for thou art a stranger and also an exile. He was not a Philistine, but he is a Philistine. Excuse me. He's a stranger, and he's in exile. He's not of Israel, and David doesn't want him in this party. 20. Whereas thou camest but yesterday, should I this day make thee go up and down with us? Up and down means, if we take it to the language, just the daily activity, getting up, going to sleep, doing the daily task, etc. Seeing I go whither I may return thou and take back thy brethren, mercy and truth be with thee. So he is saying, take your family and go back. 21. And Ittai answered the king and said, as the Lord liveth, and as my lord the king liveth, surely in what place my lord the king shall be, whether in death or life, even there also will thy servant be. So he is taking an oath here, and he says, I am loyal, and we will see that he will be rewarded. 22. And David said to Ittai, go and pass over. And Ittai the Gittite passed over, and all his men, and all the little ones that were with him. When they passed over, it means they went over the Kidron brook, and that brook, of course, mostly was dry. 23. And all the country wept with a loud voice, and all the people passed over. The king himself passed over the brook of Kidron, and all the people passed over toward the way of the wilderness. They're going to Jericho through the desert place of Judah here. 24. And lo, Zadok also and all the Levites were with him, bearing the ark of the covenant of God, and they set down the ark of God, and Abiathar went up until all the people had done passing the way. Now Zadok, we had two high priests here. Zadok was in the Mosaic temple, and he had the Kohathites, who were special Levites who carried the ark, And then there was another high priest, Abiathar, who was with David in Ziklag. 25. And the king said unto Zadok, Carry back the ark of God into the city. If I shall find favor in the eyes of the Lord, he will bring me again and show me both it and his habitation. So he said, Take that ark back. God will see it, and I will be, if he will show me the way. 26. But if he thus say, I have no delight in thee, behold, here I am, let him do as seemeth good unto him. So he's put himself in the hand of God. 27. The king said also unto Zadok the priest, Art not thou a seer? Return into the city in peace, and your sons with you, Ahimaaz thy son, and Jonathan the son of Abiathar. These two sons of the priest. And he has said that he would put himself in God's hand. See, I will tarry in the plain of the wilderness, and there come word for you to certify me. In other words, before this happened, the Urim and Thummim, the stones in the breastplate of the priest, would have been used, and he said, Take your sons and go back and stay and pray and inquire, of the Lord. And he's going to say in 28 to tarry in the plain, that's that desert before the Jordan, and he's going to wait there for a word. 29. So Zadok therefore and Abiathar carried the ark of God again to Jerusalem, and they tarried there. 30. And David went up by the ascent of the Mount Olivet, and wept as he went up, and had his head covered, and he went barefoot, and all the people that were with him covered every man his head, and they went up weeping as they went up. This is a sign of mourning, of course. Olivet, of course, would have been on the east part of Jerusalem. 31. And one told David, saying, Ahithophel is among the conspirators with Absalom. And that means, his very name, Ahithophel, means brother of foolishness. And David said, O Lord, I pray thee, turn the counsel of Ahithophel into foolishness. And he has betrayed David, and that will be answered, brother of foolishness. 32. And it came to pass that when David was come to the top of the mount where he worshipped God, behold, Hushai the Archite came to meet him with his coat rent and earth upon his head. Once again, sign of mourning, and Hushai would have been one of David's trusted counselors. 32. Unto whom David said, If thou pass on with me, then thou shalt be a burden to me. Now, he means there that you're just too old, and you could be a burden because of your age. 34. Unto whom David said, But if thou return to the city, and say unto Absalom, I will be thy servant, O king, as I have been thy father's servant hitherto, so I will will I now also be thy servant? Then mayest thou for me defeat the counsel of Ahithophel. So he said, just go back and pretend to be in Absalom's camp and defeat Ahithophel's advice. Just go against whatever he is telling Absalom. 35. And hast thou not there with thee Zadok and Abiathar the priest? Therefore it shall be that what thing soever thou shalt hear out of the king's house, thou shalt tell it to Zadok and Abiathar the priest. So he's saying you get in there undercover, and whatever you find out, you go tell Zadok and Abiathar the priest. And what was the arrangement when he sent them back with the ark? David will wait to hear from them. 36. Behold, they have there with them their two sons, Ahimaaz, Zadok's son, and Jonathan, Abiathar's son. By them ye shall send unto me everything that ye can hear. Remember that David was famous for being a warrior. He has set up a communication network so that he will know everything that is going on in the capital where Absalom has established himself as the king. 37. So Hushai, once again a trusted advisor, David's friend, came into the city, and Absalom came into Jerusalem. Absalom came in and to establish himself in Jerusalem as a fake king who had no right to be there. Once again, a type for the Antichrist. We have a few more chapters to finish this book of 2 Samuel. I hope that you will look at any that you have missed and that you will look at those upcoming until we finish this book. Thank you.